my screen. Can you see my screen? Let me see your reaction to that, please. Thank you.
Yes, I can see
Yes,
your
I can
screen.
see.
Establishing
All
the requirements.
right. Exactly. Okay. So in our last class, we talked about defining the solution. As BAs, for us to be able to effect any solution, as solution providers, we need to define those solutions by understanding the gap and having real-time engagement with our stakeholders to understand the gap. And today we are talking about establishing the requirement. So now, after we've engaged with the stakeholders, we get to understand the gaps. And those gaps are pretty much gathering requirements for the solution you're about to deliver for the stakeholders, right? So they need to be clear. There needs to be clear understanding from both parties, being you and the stakeholders. That's why I do talk about clear documentation, proper communication. All of this helps to put the BA in a good position to deliver excellently. So what are requirements? We talked about defining the solution in the last class, where we delved into gap analysis. And in all of those gaps, there are the requirements that you're getting. So what are those requirements? That solution, the need, the main point for the solution you want to deliver. Those are the requirements to get to sit with different stakeholders to get that need, to understand that need they want for the solution you need to provide. So requirements are the needs or conditions that the solution must satisfy. Is that clear? So they act as a bridge between what the stakeholders need and what the project will deliver. So while you sit with them, have that conversation with them, have different series of interview sessions with them, you're gathering requirements. So that requirement is that problem that needs to be solved. That problem that, in fact, the main project in itself, right? That's why a clear requirement needs to be gotten to ensure that the goal of the business is achieved or the goal of the project is achieved. It has to be very clear. It's not, some people will be like, but don't you think I'm asking too much? Or the client will want to be like, you're asking too much. Yes, you need to ask too much to get an understanding. There needs to be an understanding from your end and from the stakeholders' end, which is the requirement that needs to be established properly. It needs to be clear. Everybody needs to understand what it is that is to be achieved in the project. So there are different types of requirements. We have business requirements, which are very high-level goals of the project or the solution in itself, right? And it is very needed to get the business requirement clear. This is to make sure that your customers are satisfied. Your customers, because why we are effecting the solutions is to satisfy the stakeholders and also making sure that your customers are being retained, because when you deliver good service, it aids to retain your customers, any more customers, and all of that. Before you know, the company or the organization is making more money for themselves, right? So it is very key that we understand the business requirements. What are those requirements for the business to grow? What are those requirements that the business needs to to thrive more, to excel in their space, right? So it's very clear that we understand this requirement. There's another requirement from the stakeholders, which is stakeholders requirement. The people in charge, the subject matter expert, all the internal stakeholders, external stakeholders, right? You need to really understand what it is they need, what they expect. And as a BA, you need to, have that meetings or, deliver good reports for your stakeholders to, know that you understand what their requirements are. So they need that proper report, that proper documentation. So it's another part of or another type of requirement, right? So there's another one called the solution requirement. In every solution, we all know that there is a functional part and there's a non-functional part. I don't know if somebody wants to say something. I think I heard a sound. Does anyone want to say something? Hope I'm audible enough. Okay, Stephen, thank you.
Yes, and you are very audible, so we can hear you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, so the solution requirements are in two parts. There's a functional requirement. So let's say we want to deliver an ERP solution, we need to understand that there's the functional part that speaks to configuration and customization, right? And how the solution should work, right? And there's a non-functional part that really does not need too much of the customization, trying to build or create or develop, an app within the ERP. That one is just the non-functional part has to do with your user friendliness, how the user interface, in fact, how friendly the system is, or how the performance of the system. That one doesn't really speak to the functional part. So for every solution, we all need to understand the functional part or the functional requirement and the non-functional requirement. They all make up the solution requirement. The solution in itself speaks to the functional and the non-functional. And also in all of this, you're understanding the business requirement, sit with the stakeholders to understand their requirement, what the solution you're to deliver, look at the functional and the non-functional part. Then there's also need for you to understand the transition requirement. Of course, these people are moving from their normal way of, handling their processes to the digital way of, running their processes. So you're transiting from that, point to this other point. You're migrating data from this point to this point. So you need to understand what it will take, right? The temporary capabilities that is needed for that change. You need to understand this and also, work with it to ensure you deliver value to your stakeholders. Okay, yeah. So there is another part, gathering the requirements, how to, elicit the problem. You gather them together, how to work with them and, solve what that problem is. So elicitation in Babok, we have in the six knowledge areas, right? So there's a part that speaks to elicitation and collaboration, right? Because yes, we can't do without engagement, we can't do without constant, interview session, constant brainstorming session. All of this is for us to be able to solve that problem, right? So elicitation is the process of collecting requirements from stakeholders. When you collect it, when you gather those requirements, you get an understanding of what it is that needs to be done. That way you'll be able to solve that problem. You'll be able to find, an approach to delivering what that problem is. Right. So techniques include, okay, interview, yeah, survey, workshop, observation, documentation analysis. These are the techniques we can use to do elicitation. However, gathering the requirement from our stakeholders. An example of it is interviewing end users to understand pain points in current software. Are we clear? We need to sit with these people constantly sit with them, constantly ask the right questions, interview them. Who are the subject matter experts? Who are our stakeholders? You sit with them, you get those requirements clear. That way, you'll be able to solve what that problem is. So techniques for requirement elicitation also, we need to understand use cases, describe how users will interact with the system, create user stories, short statements of what the user needs. So yeah, we all know how to create stories, but not like this tales by moonlight kind of stories. However, business-oriented stories, channeling what you want to solve. So as a user, I will now tell the VA that I want my clock in, clock out to be automated, right? So what tool can we use? So somebody should attend to this, that the AI class is closed and not connecting. I don't think that speaks to me, but please look at it and know what Michael Adebayo is talking about. All right, thank you. So user stories are very
Right,
key. All of
thank you.
this helps to drive, have that proper communication, have that proper understanding for the solution to be delivered. So there's another technique also called prototyping. I believe in the course of this training, I believe some tools will be introduced to us as BAs. There are tools for prototyping. Prototyping is also one of the 50 techniques, in carrying out business analysis function, right? So prototyping, there are tools for that. We have the pencil, we have the Figma. This will help you, build a prototype or create a sample output for what you want to deliver. A sample output to clarify the requirement. So you just put a prototype of what the requirement speaks to. There's another one scenario where you get to deliver narrative descriptions of how users will use the solutions in context. All of these are techniques for requirement elicitation. Are we good? All right. Okay, so we have documenting the requirement. How will you document this requirement? What do you need for proper documentation? Because if your requirement is not clear, trust me, I've handled a project that, and you need to understand that customers' needs are insatiable. Like, they will tell you this right now. In the course of what they told you, in the course of what you have gotten an understanding that, okay, this is what they said, you know, in that, as the project progresses, you get to hear, but we didn't do this, you didn't do that. However, this was not captured initially. So as a BA, it is very good to document properly, because when you document these requirements, you get to have something to hold on to. We don't need to work with assumptions as BAs, right? So you speak with them, you use your professional ideology to, put up your both your documents, how you're going to, approach the solution. All of this needs to be clear and properly documented. So it should be very consistent and traceable at every stage, at every milestone. Like, you get to put it clear to the stakeholders. That's where documentation comes in. It shouldn't be assumed. It has to be very clear. So when you're to have any engagement, you can trace to what it is that you're addressing or what you're speaking to. All right. So there are common formats that include common formats include a requirement document or a product backlog, right? Clarity to your requirements are very good to have. Is a must-have for DAs. You just need to put up a table that is listing, okay, these are the features, these are the priorities, and the acceptance criteria. If you put these things clear in the table, in whatever solution you want to deliver, engaging and gathering requirements, you need to document them, put it clear for your stakeholder to understand and also be clear without being confused. So no party will be confused at the end of the day. And also, this area is very important, validating and verifying the requirements. Verifying and validating your requirements. Validation checks is very important to know what if the requirement reflects the real business need. If you meet the business need, you validate that, okay, this is good to go, then you find your way around it. Both parties understand that this is the expectation and this is the solution that we will deliver at the end of the day. Does the solution meet the expectation of the stakeholders? So you need to ensure that the requirement is clear for both parties to understand that, okay, this is what we are to build. Is it the right thing? Is it good to go? Are we good? Does it meet the business need? So you need to check. You need to ensure that it does meet the business needs before you validate and go ahead. That's where you see that an understanding from both parties, you, the BA and stakeholders, is a must-have for us. So there's another one, verification checks if the requirements are correct and complete. You need to verify. You need to validate. So I'll go this way, right? Viva, you verify, you validate. So as a BA, you verify that the requirements are very correct and complete. Then you don't go ahead to validate. Are we good? So this has to do with you conducting walkthrough sessions with the stakeholders to have that understanding, to confirm that the understanding is very clear, to get an understanding or to get a confirmation that the requirement they gave to you, how you analyzed it as a BA meets the goal of the business or the need of the business or addresses the solution of that business. So you need to conduct a walkthrough session for verification and also validation of the requirement. Are we good? I don't know if there's any question thought for before I go further. Do we have any question or we are good to go? I'll need reactions, please. Hello, are we on the call? Can you hear me?
I believe we
Yes,
should
from
just
my own
continue
is
for
I
now.
think you are good to go.
All right. So thank you very much. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Benita. All right, so that's fine. So we need to look at, after verification and validation, we now need to look at managing requirements. Managing requirements. Requirements may change over time due to new insights or changing in the business needs. So you see where I said that proper documentation, no need for assumption at any point in time. Because while you have had an understanding with the stakeholder, you need to find a way of managing that understanding also, because, like I said, they may come tomorrow and say, why didn't this, why can't we have this? We should have this. By then, some things are changing from the initial requirement that was gathered. You see, so you need to manage those requirements, know how to manage it as a BA. You don't need to, clap back at your customers. You are a solution provider. So what it is they need is what you do well to deliver as a BA. Because for real, requirements may change over time, due to new updates to some certain approach or processes, right? All of these things change, or the business might be looking to add, some things to what they had as their need as an organization or their goal as a business. So while it is changing, their requirement is also changing. So traceability helps you link the requirements to their source and track changes. So proper documentation, you now see what has changed. You trace it for you to be able to, apply the necessary changes that is expected without, having to mess the project up. That's why your documentation, your interview sessions, your documentation, all of these things needs to be very, very clear. I believe as BAs on this call, we are good at using Excel. Excel is at least a basic tool, a must-have for all of us as BAs. Before I start looking at other tools like the Jiras, the Trellos, and all of that. They will put clarity to what we are doing. It will help us also to document, put your engagement with clients, reports with clients or stakeholders to understand what it is that you're doing. You need to have all of this so you can manage the priority, or you can be able to prioritize the requirements of your stakeholders. Are we good? So yeah, I believe we're good with Excel. Jira is a good tool also. We need to be versatile with so many tools as BAs. There are so many tools that we need to be very conversant with and to know how to use them. All right, thank you. So yeah, challenges in requirements work. I mentioned most times while in the project or while delivering that solution, you meet some stakeholders and change in what was said initially. Okay. Please, somebody should post the attendance. I think somebody is requesting for it in the chat room. So some challenges are ambiguity and misunderstanding of needs. At every stage, at every engagement, you fall back, you build your report that is gathered from that engagement for clarity. All of this will help us manage misunderstanding when it comes, because we are not just talking verbally, we are also showing what it is we have, what we have documented. We are also showing it. So some of these challenges can be handled when you have your documents clear. So some of these challenges are very, very expected to happen in every project that we face as BAs. Ambiguity and misunderstanding of the needs. Conflicting stakeholders' views. Trust me, right? They just say, I want this. You as a BA need to be versatile to, see how to put that document together so it doesn't conflict the stakeholders. Because you'll be saying this and they are trying to say this, but when you're doing your job well, like have your documents clear, it will help to minimize that conflict. The back and forth will be minimized. Incomplete or change in information. All of these are challenges that we will face. Poor documentation or communication. it's really a big challenge for BAs. Trust me, it's really a big challenge in every project. If we have poor documentation, we will struggle. If we can't communicate properly, we will struggle. So all of these are challenges that we can have in requirement gathering, managing requirements, defining and establishing requirements. These are the challenges that we will likely face. So we need to know how to get our documentations right. We need to know how we can communicate right. All of this, we can manage these issues when they come up as BAs. There's also the requirement analysis that we BAs need to understand how to prioritize, how to do a priority. Prioritization, I think, is also one of the among the 50 techniques in Babok to deliver business analysis. You need to know how to do your prioritization. You prioritize your requirements using the must have, the should have, the could have, and the won't have. If, as BAs, you're able to put up these things clearly, your stakeholders will be in the know. That way, you're approaching the project properly, not to spend much, not to also, waste resources. It will be clear for the stakeholders to know what they must have. As a business, you must have this. As a business, you should have this. However, you having this in place, there's no problem. It's a should have, but we can still do without. Right? You also need to let them know that you could have this. If the resources are there, you could have this. However, it doesn't change anything, or it doesn't, get to alter what you have in place, which is the must have. That must have is something we can't do without. So yes, we should have this. We could have this. Yeah, let us just, we won't have this. This is a won't have. Like there's no need investing there. There's no need putting in resources there. So as a BA, you should know how to prioritize your requirements using this framework. Must have, should have, could have, and won't have. You also need to understand how to use models like use cases. We've mentioned this, user stories, and scenarios. Excuse me. Excuse me. All right, so we've mentioned user stories, use cases. We all need to have this also to be able to, analyze our requirements and also put clarity to our stakeholders. So there's also need for us to put checks for consistency, for completeness, and feasibility. So we need to put it in check how consistent the requirement is, how complete it should be or it is, how feasible that it is for us to drive. All right. So also we need to have transformation of tactics to get clear of these requirements, how we can transform them, how the good knowledge of transforming those requirements, it has to be clear to us as BAs. We need to put it also clear to our stakeholders. So the best practices in all of this, you involve your stakeholders early enough and often. There's no limit to asking questions because this interview is what you need to, solve that problem, or how to not even solve in but putting up the solution to how the problem should be solved. You can be able to communicate with the real-time solution providers, because as BAs, right, we sit in between. We're sitting in between the business and the developers. It's for us to understand what the stakeholder needs, analyze them properly by having proper breakdown, interview sessions, putting up documents for the other party, which is the software developer, because all of us there might not be software developers. We mustn't be so good at writing code, building a software from start to finish, have to know how to do design, UI, UX. Yes, as BAs, we need to have a knowledge of all of these things. So when you're done with meeting the stakeholders, you'll be meeting the developer. So what you have documented, that this is what we need to do. This is what we have to do for this solution to be delivered for our stakeholders. Because these software guys might not have all of the time and all that to put these things clear to the stakeholders. And the stakeholders need that solution, not just you meeting the solution itself, but the report, your documentation, all of this has to be very clear. And when they are clear to the stakeholders, you can also communicate clearly with the software developers or the app developers and all that. So you need to involve your stakeholders often. Use visuals, diagrams, mock-ups to clarify your requirements. And I tell people as BAs, you need to see how to be using you just have to know how to use some tools. There is a technique called mind mapping in Babok. And it's a technique to do business analysis. It's one of the 50 techniques in Babok to do business analysis, where you're able to use illustrations, images to put a visual representation of requirements while in a meeting or an engagement, an interview session with your stakeholders. You don't really need to be picking or jotting down word to word of what they are saying. So you need to, find a way to use visuals, diagrams to illustrate or, put up or clarify the requirements that is gotten. That way, you're lessening the words written down. But, few words, diagram, all this speaks volume than you writing books all in the name of requirement gathering. So how much of it will you be reading to have an understanding? And when you're able to use diagrams, it expands your knowledge of the solution to be delivered. So as BAs, we need to go and learn how to use Xmind. Is a tool for requirement gathering, right? Xmind is a tool. I recommend that for us to, go lay hands on. It will lessen, that how as a BA, you don't need to be writing notes, like jotting down notes while in an engagement. It helps you use images, some illustrations to, jot down notes or to put up requirements from your stakeholders. All right, so in all of this, right, you need to always review and update your requirements. Yes, like I said, a tool like Xmind, you use it to gather requirements while looking at it. In fact, to put it up on the screen, if we have a team of BAs that we work with, we all look at it and we are getting some insight, we are getting some clear pictures, we are updating, we are, adding flesh to it, knowledge, ideas are coming in. All of this will aid us to carry out the job better, to deliver the solution better. We've also spoken about prioritization. To prioritize this requirement based on the value that it will deliver to the business. We've spoken about must have, should have, could have, and would have. It is very key, the best practice for BAs to put at the back of their mind. All right. I want to conclude with this, and for us to really understand that this thing is a key for us as BAs. Establishing clear requirements is very essential to a successful project outcome. Establishing a clear requirement is very essential for the project to go successfully, because it will help us to align stakeholders' needs. It will help us to align the solution needs. Like, all of this will help us do the project well, because it aligns stakeholders, it guides the development, and also supports quality assurance. Your clear requirement gathering, your proper documentation of those requirements, proper prioritization of those requirements, all of this will help the solution or the project come out successfully. If it is very clear, it will align what the stakeholder needs. It will guide what the software developers will want to build or create. And also it will help in supporting quality assurance. We will be rest assured that, oh, this thing will deliver the expected value. Stakeholders will be certain that it will deliver the expected value. A thorough and thoughtful requirement analysis is to save us time and cost in the long run. I mentioned this before. When we are able to, be clear with these requirements, we can tell what our stakeholders must have. That is something that cannot be, like, we can't do without it. It's what the solution needs. Because some people now, go into getting everything, whereas that one is a should have. They should have it. Yes, they should have it, because it will also help. The one of the could have or won't have, when you're able to be clear with that, it saves cost. It saves you time, because you won't be putting energy in. You know how to, put in your energy, or where to put in your energy, or what requires more of your time and resources. So it's very good that we, carry out a thorough and thoughtful requirement analysis. Are we good? Are we good? Any question? I don't know if anybody has questions. Before our time will be up, let's get to take your questions and, see how to call it a day for this session. Hello?
We are here with you.
All right. So, yeah.
Yes, I will with you, sir. But
All right.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Let me take this point again. That speaks to tools. So I mentioned before, right? Let me just do a bit of reiteration before.
I think, okay.
Yeah, let me do a bit of reiteration before.
Yes, okay, because there's already, you can check the chat. Someone already sent a message to the chat. So
oh, okay. Thanks for that. The classes have been wonderful. However, I wanted to ask when we can have a practical section where we can apply what we've learned to solve a real life problem as business analysts. Okay, I believe the organizers of this college, this training, I believe they have that in their plan. So I wouldn't tell, but I believe it should be in the plan for this training session. So I believe they'll speak volume to that aspect. Is that fine, Gabriel? I strongly believe there will be where we'll get to look at some of these things real time. Where we'll get to apply or bring in the knowledge of some tools, how we can use this to get this, and also, come up with a good document for a solution to be delivered. So yeah, thank you, Gabriel. That should be factored in, I believe. I strongly believe. All right. Any other question? Any other question? Any other comment? Are we there? Are we good? Okay, Gabriel, you're welcome. Let me get your thoughts. All right. So I wanted to say some things before now. Oh, Benita, thank you. Thank you. So yeah, that, while we are getting this requirement, we should have it at the back of our mind that it does change. I've had this issue before in one of the projects I was doing for one of the projects I was working on. Trust me, our first engagement was very clear. So I had this solution I wanted to implement for them, Odo. All right. So they've, said what they wanted, what they want out of the software, which was, I just use oh, okay, this is the sister, like this is somebody that we've been in good talking terms. So some of the documentation, some of the approach was not captured. Wasn't captured that at the long run, they started changing what was said initially, which was not properly documented. This was one of my first early stages. It wasn't really documented. And that documentation was not properly verified by my end and also validated by the stakeholder. So while it changed, it wanted to bring up back and forth and all of that. So it now occurred to me that some of these steps shouldn't be, taken out of the job that you're doing. You shouldn't be taking, you shouldn't just assume, now my friend, now my sister, in fact, okay, my friend recommended it. You need to make sure you don't assume. Everything that is said, put it together, document it, verify it, carry out a verification process with the stakeholders before you validate. Ensure they also validate that this is clear and this is what we should have, or this is what we are having. This is what you should deliver. Let's get to know how to use Excel, which is a good tool for us. In fact, all the Microsoft tools, Word, PowerPoint, because most of your presentation or interview session, if you need to put up the objective, we need to know how to use PowerPoint, we need to know how to use Excel, we need to know how to use Jira. For prototyping, we need to know how to use Pencil. Have a sample solution that you want to deliver or you want the development people to work on. We need to understand these things. We need to know how to use them. We need to make sure we use them as BAs. We can't do without them because it speaks volume to what we do as BAs. It speaks volume to the solution that we have to come up with. All right. Any other question? Let me see the chat room. Any question, people? I'm waiting, my friend. Hope we are good. Hope are we clear on this? Should I go over it again? This one I'm not getting reaction.
The reactions are, I don't know why they are becoming very low, but I'm guessing that we should just call it a day, because a lot of people here are okay. Gribel, I'm in the clear, okay?
All right,
All
Gabriel,
right.
thank you. Let me get more reaction. I've heard from Gabriel. Oh, Steven, thank you. Thank you. I've heard from Benita. So I need more people to say something. If you're not clear, just take me back, call my attention. Let's put it clear once again before we call it a day for this session. More reactions. We are how many on the call? Oh, 33. So I need everyone to say something. Oh, okay. Richmond said, please go over. All right. Okay. So let me just do a brief okay, Richmond also said, okay, thank you that I should go over it again, right? All right. Okay, let me quickly do that in the next few minutes. All right, today's topic, we are looking at establishing the requirement. If you were in the last class, we talked about defining the solution that you're to provide. Where we get to speak or talk about gap analysis. Those gaps are being gotten from your engagement with the client or the customer or the stakeholder, right? And those things build up your requirement gathering. In trying to understand or assess the gaps, you're capturing requirements, right? So that is, has to do with lots of interview sessions, meetings with the stakeholder, right? You now get to understand the requirements. Those requirements speaks volumes to the gap. What are those gaps? Those gaps are the needs that the solution must address or must satisfy. So that requirement that you have gotten, they are the needs that will, that gap, that will solve that gap that the stakeholders are having. So, and this requirement act as a bridge between what the stakeholders need and what the project will deliver or what the solution will deliver. That's why this requirement has to be clear enough for both yourself to understand. You don't just assume that the customer or the stakeholder said this and you've just put it, just document it anyhow. That it has to be very, very clear for the stakeholders to understand. So there won't be any issue while the project is going on. It has to be clear for the stakeholder to know that it will meet or solve what needs they are asking for. And in this requirement gathering now, we have different types. The business itself has a requirement. They want to grow. They want to make more money. They want to retain their customers. So you see that is very, very essential. That's why it's captured as a high-level goal. Because all we have to deliver, all solution we have to deliver is to ensure that this business is making more money, to ensure that their customers are satisfied. That's why we need to understand the business requirements properly. We also need to understand the stakeholders' requirements too. What is the need of the managers? What is the need of the end users? So that's why our report has to be clear. There's also solution requirements. Where we get to understand the functional requirements, what the solution does, how the solution will be created or developed, what are those things that is needed for that solution to work. And also need to consider the non-functional requirements. What is the performance of the solution that we are delivering? How user-friendly is it? They are non-functional. So, but we need to understand this as BAs. And also you see that you're transiting from this to this, how data is being migrated and all of that. We need to understand that requirement, because all these are the different types of requirements. And also in gathering these requirements, eliciting them is a process of collecting this requirement from your stakeholders, analyzing them, and also doing or driving, taking care of the solution you're to provide. And these techniques to elicit this problem or to gather this requirement, it is interviews. Sit with these stakeholders, ask the right questions, document what was gotten, create a survey, send to them, get their feedback. It will guide clarity. It will guide to put clarity to the requirement. Hold a workshop session where you take them through some user stories, build up a use case. Like, all these things are techniques for you to be able to gather these requirements. You also need to document properly for it to be clear for both parties. Okay, I've mentioned use cases, user story, prototyping. We all need to learn how to use Figma, how to use Pencil. All this will help us in prototyping. Documenting our requirements properly. It has to be clear. It has to be consistent. It has to be traceable. Know how to use Excel. Know how to use Jira. Know how to use Trello. All these are tools for BAs to use and deliver excellently. Find a way to verify that requirement, that it is clear, that it is complete, that it is the right thing that is to be done for your stakeholders. Validate them. Make sure that you get validation both from your stakeholders. I've mentioned Excel, I've mentioned Jira. We shouldn't also forget about prioritization. Is a technique in Babok, prioritization. Your most call should help us do that. Have that at the back of your mind. Your must have, your should have, your could have, your won't have. As BAs, if we apply all of this, I believe we would deliver. We would definitely deliver. Ensure your requirements are clear. Ensure it aligns to the stakeholders' needs. It aligns with the business goal. And also, it is clear from both ends, for both parties. You as the middleman, which is the BA, you're putting a clear document or requirement analysis to the stakeholders, and also clear documentation of the requirements to the software developer. Are we good, everyone? I believe this is clear. Have I been able to speak volume to you, Richmond? All right, thank you. Okay, Benita, you're saying I should ask a question to help us establish understanding. I'm asking a question now, so you tell me what it is you need to. I don't know if I got that your question properly. You can ask a question to help us establish understanding. I'm trying to process it. I don't know.
I believe what she's trying to. Okay, I think. Okay, she just replied that it has been taken care of. Thank you. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Benita.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Kingsley, for this amazing session. Kindly appreciate Mr. Kingsley. He's one of our enlightened trainer with a very sweet and lovely approach. Kindly go to the comments. Appreciate Mr. Kingsley, and you can also unmute your mic to speak.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kingsley, for that wonderful session. It was so important.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you so much, and God bless you. Really appreciate it.